حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونشكره ولا نكفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله. بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة فكشف الله به الغمة فجزاه الله عنا خير ما جاز نبيا عن أمته وداعيا عن دعوته. ثم أما بعد، يقول الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم: يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. ويقول سبحانه: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. ويقول سبحانه: يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. اللهم اجعلنا من المتقين واجعلنا من الصالحين واجعلنا من الصادقين واجعلنا من ورثة جنة النعيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين. ثم أما بعد, my dear brothers and sisters, we start by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and praising Him for all what is seemingly easy and good and what is seemingly hard and difficult. For Allah Azza wa Jal puts sometimes in hardship, Allah puts ease. فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. And definitely, nowadays we're living in hard and difficult days. But we have to see the opportunity and the ease, and that we might not see it now, but it will inshallah come, and not only us, but our children and grandchildren will enjoy that ease because of this hardship. So, because the Quran teaches us how to think, how to process things, how to have a perspective and a view on things. The Quranic perspective is that Allah gives us right now. We are definitely going through a test. The combination of what African American professor said, the COVID-19 virus and the 1619 virus. So there are two viruses. One is physical and the other one is mental, spiritual, emotional. COVID-19, everybody knows, Allah Azza wa Jal lift up this pandemic and show us human beings the antidote, which we call the vaccination for such a virus. But the other virus is the 1619. What happened in 1619? The first ship of slaves landed in Charleston, Northern California, to bring the first batch of slaves on a ship to the United States. And let me correct myself, they were not slaves, they were free people made slaves, because we usually make that mistakes until someone, may Allah reward him, advised me and say, Sheikh, they were not slaves, they were free brought slaves. So whenever we're talking about 1619, so imagine how old is this, right? And then you move on with the history, and you're talking about the millions upon millions. The figure talked about is around 12 million people. Some take it up to 18 million, some take it down to 8 million, but the medium figure is 12 million people. 450,000 people landed in the US, and maybe another 50,000 or so in Canada, so around 500,000 in the US, the American northern continent, but most of them went to South America. And what happened is an unfixable altering entire ethnicities and cultures and generations and races, and creating hybrid races in the middle. It affected the continent of Africa itself and the ratio of men to women in Africa itself, and then it affected the local people. As we know, entire nations got replaced with other nations and hybrid nations. So we know about a 40 million people estimate of local Native Americans were gone, replaced by the white Europeans. Then later on, the African Americans came as made slaves, and then whatever hybrid slave or hybrid generation or race came from the mixture of the whites and the blacks in America, and then bringing in the other workers from China. 800,000 workers were brought to build the railway, but before that, the entire economy of these states or colonies, the 13 colonies that turned to be states, the entire country was built on the back of that African American free-man made slave. So this is a hardship. We're all getting through it. You all know the history. But it is very important to know, brothers and sisters, that in this hardship, we have a historical moment. And by the way, historical moments are really big opportunities for small people to make big change. Usually, it happens every 100 years that there's a historical moment that your actions changes the course of history. Even if you are just an average human being, an average man, not in power, not influential, not very rich, not very powerful, not in a high position, but you still can make a change. That doesn't happen every day. We know that happened when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with a group of believers in Mecca, most of them were the average person from the middle class and the lower class, including the slaves in Mecca, and few from the upper class also. There was converts from the leaders of the tribes. There was almost 1/3 of Muslim converts at the time of the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca were from the leaders. And 1/3 were from the middle class, and 1/3 were from the weak and abused and oppressed and slaves. So that mixture made a very beautiful mix, because the first batch of believers, the Muhajirin, represented the entire society. And between them, they created a new society, a new dynamic. So Rasulullah ﷺ, before joining Muhajirin and Ansar, as we all know, al-mu'akha bayn al-Muhajirin wal Ansar, before joining Muhajirin and Ansar, few Muslims know that in Mecca, Rasulullah ﷺ did brotherhood between the people in Mecca. They still were not Muhajirin, they were just living in Mecca. So Rasulullah ﷺ joined between Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Sayyidina Bilal ibn Rabah. Because, as you know, Sayyidina Abu Bakr paid the money for Umayyah ibn Khalaf to free Sayyidina Bilal ibn Rabah, and that took place. And likewise, between Umar ibn al-Khattab and between Salim Mawla Umar, and between, Abu Ubayda Amir ibn al-Jarrah, and between Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Yani he made mu'akha, two people, one strong, one weak. That sample of the rich being the brother of the poor, and the master being the brother of what was called the slave, because we're all slaves to Allah. No one is a slave to no one, as Rasulullah ﷺ said. Don't say this person is my slave, for all of us are slaves of Allah. But say this person is my helper, my servant, yeah, that's fine. But don't say, you don't have the right to call someone a slave, right? So that's فَإِنَّمَا الْعَبْدُ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ وَإِنَّمَا الْأَمَةُ أَمَةُ اللَّهِ لَا يَقُلْ أَحَدُكُمْ هَذَا عَبْدِي وَهَذَا أَمَتِي. Don't say this is my male slave, female slave. We are all al-abd Abdullah, and the female slave, we are all slaves to Allah Azza wa Jalla. But you say this is, this is my helper, khadimi, musa'idi, that mawlai, so that is fine. So with that, that was the sample that small people in Mecca, where they lived in a very racist society, segregated society. They were another society, small, 100 people on average. They looked like how the Muslim Ummah should look like in the future. So that's why when they went to Medina, they implemented that system, and there became no difference between a master or slave, or a rich or poor, or powerful or weak, because it was already done in the heart of Mecca. So I say, again, there's a lot of positivity in our masajid all over America. You go to enter any masjid, you'll see it's a united nation. That sample, that love, that standing next to one, the white next to the black, foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder, the very rich next to the very poor, having iftar together in Ramadan, that spirit, America needs to know about it. Now, I'm not saying that, as I said last khutbah, there is positive and there is negative. We do have things to get rid of. We do have things that we have to get rid of. Our Muslim society and Muslim community is not perfect. It's far from perfect. But alhamdulillah, we're learning from our mistakes. We're learning how to be sensitive with our words. We're learning how to be sensitive with our actions. We're learning how to change ourselves from inside out. Yani, if I have a message for you, brothers and sisters, nothing will fix this, the mess, except tazkiyah, tazkiyah, tazkiyah. Tarbiyah, tarbiyah, tarbiyah. That's the only thing. The only thing you can fix is when it's fixed from inside. But we have seen, they passed laws in 1865, emancipation of slaves. Then they passed laws in 1965, or 1964, which is the civil rights. Then now, again, it's surfacing again. Why? Because it was never treated from the heart. Brothers and sisters, today, like never before, the movement of white supremacy is alive and kicking. Whatever happened in India from the nationalists, extremists, Hindus that are like out to finish anyone who's not Hindu and who does not adhere to them, and they want to finish, the same thing is happening right now. Right now, there is a new model of education presented in California. It's telling the story of the local Americans, African American story, Native American story, Asian story, and other stories. So there is 4. So they made it 7 modules. One of them is the experience, the history of Muslims, Arabs, and Palestinians when they came to America. So now this is being voted on right now in every school district. There is almost 1,000 school districts in California. Every time the school district votes on this very nicely written, the story of Muslims in America from a Muslim point of view, the story of Palestinians in America from a Palestinian point of view, the story of Arabs who came to America from an Arab point of view, so it covers 3 different levels. It is right now in every school district that's happening in California. There's 2 groups out there in every school district meeting to adopt this or not to adopt it. 2 groups showing up, objecting, and wanting, keep the African American, keep the Asian American, keep the Native American, keep the others. Just we want you to take one of them. They're attacking the weakest link. Which one? The one that talks about the Muslim story, the Arab story. It's under the Asian studies. In Indian, Pakistanis, Arabs, and Palestinians. Take that out. Who's lobbying? It's happening every day right now. And I'm attending those meetings, and we're rallying the brothers and sisters to attend them. They are open on Zoom. You don't even have to be from there. Who's attending? 2 groups. The white supremacists and the Zionists. Every meeting is attended and fought tooth and nail. Take it out, take it out, take it out. This is happening as you're thinking everything is all right. And before this, there was another fight in which the right-wing Hindu nationalists in India came here, and the Zionists came here, and they wanted to change the part about history that your kids in elementary school and middle school and high school, they have to study about the Middle East and this and that. They wanted to change it and replace it totally with unfactual, non-existing, anti-Islamic things. from India, I'm telling you, brothers and sisters. And if it wasn't for our Indian Muslim brothers and sisters who have a council that they went and fought them, it would have been a disaster. It would have been a disaster. So, while we're thinking we're in California and everything is right and progressive, think again, brothers and sisters. So we're not. This is a historical moment. Who amongst you cannot click to attend a Zoom meeting? Everybody. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be healthy. You don't have to be in a high position. You don't have to be powerful. You don't have to nothing. Every smartphone you can download now the Zoom app, and you can attend these school district meetings and participate. This is a moment, brothers and sisters, where we Muslims have to repent to Allah Azza wa Jal ourselves. If we were ever racists, كل بني آدم خطاء وخير الخطائين التوابون. I will share with you one thing and I will end the khutbah inshallah. Sayyidina Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, in the first year of da'wah, maybe second year of da'wah, heard, he was thirsty. He was a robber, street robber with Bani Ghifar, with his brothers and cousins, the Rossi crowd. But he had so much longing for something better, righteousness, subhanAllah. So he heard about Prophet Muhammad, he sent his brother. The brother went to Mecca, heard general news, came back, reported to Abu Dharr al-Ghifari. He told him, man, you did not quench my thirst. I want to go myself. So he was himself. Long story short, Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib leads him to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah invites him to Islam. He embraces Islam. Rasulullah tells him, go back and invite your people and don't catch up with me until you hear that the matter of Islam and Muslims are strong. So Abu Dharr al-Ghifari embraced Islam in the first year of da'wah, maybe second year, one of the earliest Muslims. And then he goes and disappears for 10, 15, 13 years, maybe 12 years, makes da'wah to his people, and when Rasulullah immigrated to Medina, he came with almost half of Bani Ghifar, half of that tribe, he came with them Muslims. What did Abu Dharr al-Ghifari miss? 13 years of tarbiyah and tazkiyah. So, he's new to Medina, new to this whole new society. He's a man that Rasulullah said he's an ummah. He walks alone, dies alone, and he's resurrected on the day of judgment alone. So he goes and he has an argument in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some people say it wasn't in front. But anyway, he said to Sayyidina Bilal, he had an argument, he said, you argue with me, son of a black woman? Who are you? Still, Maskeen Abu Dharr al-Ghifari missed 13 years of raising, coming, doesn't know what's going on. So, Sayyidina Bilal said, Wallahi, I will report that to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because I haven't been called that in my 13 years of Islam, and now we're in Medina, you're coming with that old baggage. So they go to the Prophet, Rasulullah's face turned red, and he said, Ya Aba Dharr, innaka mru'un fika jahiliyyah. You are a man with still jahiliyyah in you. Sayyidina Abu Dharr, oh my God, this is totally different. He falls on the ground, put one cheek on the floor, pulls the feet of Bilal, and says, step on my other cheek, so that Abu Dharr can know who's the son of a black woman and who's the son of a white woman. I am sorry. Sayyidina Bilal said, no, please, you don't have to do that. I forgive you. And then Sayyidina Abu Dharr caught up with this whole notion. What do we learn from this? You can be racist while you don't know you're racist. Number one. You don't have to be racist. How do you discover it? You don't have to be racist with black people only. You can be racist with your own country people. Fair skin versus dark skin. Rich versus poor. North versus south. City versus village. You can be racist and full of discrimination and full of what Iblis said, as we said last khutbah, أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِنْ, I'm better than him. You can be full of, when Allah said to Iblis next to Jude, he said, I'm better than him. You created me from fire, you created me from clay. So, you can be righteous, good man, good woman, but racist at the same time. Number two. Number two, once you know that you are racist, then you cannot sit down and let it go. Because discrimination and racism based on skin color and language and where you're from goes right straight against the ayat of the Quran and right straight against Islam. So you cannot keep iman and discrimination and racism in the same heart. So you have to immediately start the process of what? Of tazkiyah and tarbiyah and making tawbah to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Then you have to follow a bad deed with a good deed. You have to go and become an activist and stand against discrimination and racism with all of its forms, and you become an activist so that you replace all of the racist comments and thoughts and feelings inside you that you had. You have to follow it with something that will wipe it out. Alhamdulillah, our Islam is easy. So follow a bad deed with a good deed, it shall erase it. وَأَتْبِعِ السَّيِّئَةَ الْحَسَنَةَ تَمْحُهَا. In another ayah, إِنَّ السَّيِّئَاتِ يُذِبْنَ الْحَسَنَاتِ. I mean, إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. Yes, the hasanat erases the sayyi'at. So, that is the process. So some people say, I'm a good Muslim. I'm not a racist. La ya akhi, you can be a good Muslim, but you've never been taught. You are not even aware you're saying I'm not racist and you're actually racist. So we as Muslims, we're not going to sit down and cry about that. We're going to go and fix it. So brothers and sisters, this is why do we need to fix it really quickly? Because we have a lot of work to do in the society. We have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of things to share with the rest of the society about Islam and Muslims. So that's my message to you, brothers and sisters. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us from those who take advantage of this historical moment, and may Allah help us first to get rid of our own, feelings and all of the things that goes against His laws, and then may Allah make us servants and activists of His cause. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. أقول ما تسمعون وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه ولا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. اللهم يا مسبب الأسباب سبب لنا أسباب الخير يا رب العالمين. Brothers and sisters, take advantage of all of these, peaceful rallies and marches and Juneteenth holiday. It's not a holiday, it's a commemoration of the emancipation of slaves, and so many people are going to come out. And this is a chance, right? This is a chance for us to blossom. 1 out of every 4 slaves was a Muslim. Out of every free men made slaves, I have to keep on remind myself, 1 out of every free men made slaves was a Muslim. They just actually made it public that they used to say these are incomplete, undeveloped human beings, uncultured, no knowledge, so we brought them here to make them human beings with some culture and some knowledge. So there's a book written in Arabic, the only document of its kind of any other slave, written, a whole book about the story of this brother who came from the area of Senegal and the area around Senegal, and he was brought here, and he was, mashallah, like a alim. So he wrote a book in Arabic, and now America has to read that book and translate it from Arabic, the language of the Quran, to English. And he's talking about Islam and Iman and the treatment and this and what he had and how much he was part of a civilization and he was brought here, blah blah blah, this and this and this and that, all the way to the end of his life. So someone sent that clip on WhatsApp, and it's really, really eye-opening. So this is the time, we've been constantly called terrorists. We've been constantly called the problem. All of a sudden right now, we are the solution, and we're not the zalim, because inshallah we were never, inshallah, the oppressor. All of a sudden, we are the mazloom. Let's take advantage of that. Let's take advantage of being the oppressed, because people like to stand with the oppressed. So don't hide. Don't run away. Don't say it's not my problem. Find out anything, any peaceful rally and protest, and be part of it, inshallah, and voice the name of Allah in the name of Allah, and make dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal. When you go into these places, make dhikr. Say subhanallah, alhamdulillah. Say I'm a Muslim and I'm standing up with the cause. Make it known. Give the credit back to where it belongs. That's why we say, Inna alhamdulillah. All credit, all praises due to Allah, not to me. Give credit where credit belongs. Wallahi, brothers and sisters, if you read the writings of Muslim scholars in the past, close to the time of the Prophet, in 700 years ago, 200-300 years ago, about the position, how every time dark people or black people suffered discrimination in our civilization, Muslim scholars got up and wrote books about this issue. So we have an unbelievable group of books only talking about the honor of dark and black people around the Prophet, of Sahaba, of Tabi'een, of Tabi'ut Tabi'een, of the Imams who came after, to give back credit so mashallah, we actually have a lot of books about that which we really need to bring back to life. اللهم تقبل منا يا رب واجعلنا هادين مهديين لا ضالين ولا مضلين. اللهم اغفر لنا والمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك قريب سميع مجيب الدعوات. اللهم أعز بنا الإسلام وانصر بنا المسلمين وأعلي بنا كلمة الحق والدين واجعلنا من عبادك الصالحين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. Obviously we cannot be close to each other, so we can fulfill one of the two commands. One command say line up, the other say squeeze. So we're going to leave the squeeze alone and keep the 6 feet, but line up inshallah to the best of your ability. Look right, look left, and line up. جزاكم الله خير. استووا واعتدلوا. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله 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 الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة تصلى نارا حامية تسقى من عين آنية ليس لهم طعام إلا من ضريع لا يسمن ولا يغني من جوع وجوه يومئذ ناعمة لسعيها راضية في جنة عالية لا تسمع فيها لاغية فيها عين جارية فيها سرر مرفوعة وأكواب موضوعة ونمارق مصفوفة وزرابي مبثوثة أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر إن إلينا إيابهم ثم إن علينا حسابهم الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله 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 السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الله أستغفر الله أستغفر الله أستغفر الله.